آل محمد وعجل فرجهم اجمعین. اعوذ باللہ من الشیطان اللعین الرجیم. بسم اللہ الرحمن الرحیم. الحمد للہ رب العالمین. الصلاۃ والسلام علی اشرف الانبیاء والمرسلین وعلی آل بیتہ الطیبین الطاہرین المعصومین المظلومین. اما بعد فقد قال اللہ سبحانہ وتعالی فی محکم کتابہ المبین. بسم اللہ الرحمن الرحیم. وَأَوْحَى رَبُّكَ إِلَى النَّحْلِ أَنِ اتَّخِذِي مِنَ الْجِبَالِ بُيُوتًا وَمِنَ الشَّجَرِ وَمِمَّا يُعْشَرُونَ. صدق اللہ العلی العظیم. السلام علیکم ناظرین. ولایت ٹی وی کے دا قرآن اینڈ سائنس سیریز کے ساتھ آپ کی خدمت میں پیش خدمت ہیں. امید ہے آپ سب لوگ خیریت سے ہوں گے اور قرآن کے مطالعے میں ایک نئے زاویے سے دلچسپی لے رہے ہوں گے، کیونکہ قرآن ایک ایسا زندہ جیتا جاگتا معجزہ ہے جو میرے نبی سرکار دو عالم صلی اللہ علیہ وآلہ وسلم کی ذات اقدس پہ نازل ہوا، اور آپ کے ان معجزات میں سے ہے کہ جو کسی اور نبی کو عطا نہیں ہوئے. اور چونکہ یہ مہینہ شعبان المعظم کا مہینہ سرکار دو عالم ختمی مرتبت حضرت محمد صلی اللہ علیہ وآلہ وسلم سے منسوب ہے، آپ نے اس مہینے کو اپنا مہینہ کہا ہے، تو اس مہینے کی برکت تلاوت قرآن اور قرآن کی افہام و تفہیم ابھی سے اگر ہم شروع کر دیں تو اس کے بعد آئندہ آنے والا مہینہ جو کہ رمضان المبارک کا مہینہ ہے، رمضان الکریم کا مہینہ ہے، جس کو قرآن مجید کی بہار کہا جاتا ہے کہ یہ قرآن مجید کی بہار ہے. ہر مہینے ہر شے کی، ہر چیز کی ایک بہار ہوتی ہے. قرآن مجید کی بہار رمضان المبارک کا مہینہ ہے. تو جب ہم اپنی تلاوت اور خداوند عالم کی ذات اقدس کا شکرانہ ادا کرنے لگیں تو ایک انڈرسٹینڈنگ کے ساتھ، ایک فہم و تفہیم کے ساتھ، ایک سمجھ کے ساتھ، ایک اس کیفیت کے ساتھ کہ جب انسان کسی چیز کو سمجھ کے، کسی چیز کی افادیت کو سمجھ کے، کسی چیز کی میننگ فلنس کو سمجھ کے، کسی چیز کا مقصد سمجھ کے کہ یہ شے ہے، یہ چیز ہے، اس چیز کا کیا مقصد ہے، اس چیز کی کیا افادیت ہے، یہ بنانے والے نے کیا چیز ذہن میں رکھ کے بنائی ہے، اس کے کیا کیا یوزز ہیں، کیا یہ صرف ایک ہی مقصد کے لیے کافی ہے یا اس کے اور کئی مقاصد ہیں اور کئی کاموں میں لی جا سکتی ہے، اور اس کے شارٹ ٹرم یعنی ایک چھوٹے کم وقفے کے لیے، کم وقت کے لیے اس کے یوزز یا اس کی افادیت ہے یا ایک لمبے عرصے پہ محیط ہے. قرآن مجید وہ معجزہ ہے کہ جو تا قیامت باقی رہے گا، اور یہاں تک کہ قرآن مجید کو بھی اللہ تعالیٰ نے شافع قرار دیا ہے کہ یہ بھی شفاعت کرنے والوں میں سے ہوگا، اور یہ گواہی دے گا اور شفاعت کرے گا ان لوگوں کی کہ جنہوں نے اپنے وقت میں سے، اپنی مصروفیات زندگی میں سے، اپنے روزمرہ کے مشاغل میں سے وقت نکال کے قرآن مجید کی تلاوت کی، اور نہ صرف تلاوت کی بلکہ اس کو سوچنے سمجھنے کی کوشش بھی کی. اور جب ہم سوچتے سمجھتے ہیں کسی چیز کو، ایک انڈرسٹینڈنگ کے ساتھ پڑھتے ہیں، تو ہم بے اختیار، جیسے ہم کوئی کتاب پڑھیں، کوئی عام سی کتاب، کوئی دنیاوی کتاب جب پڑھتے ہیں، ہمیں جب کوئی چیز، کوئی اس کا کوئی جملہ، کوئی اس کا کوئی ایسپیکٹ، کوئی ہمیں جب سمجھ آتا ہے، ہمارے واقعی میں ہمارے دل کو لگتی ہے وہ بات، تو بے اختیار جو اس کا مصنف ہوتا ہے، جو اس کا آتھر ہوتا ہے، بے اختیار اس کو داد دینے کو دل چاہتا ہے کہ واہ کیا بات کی، کیا خوبصورت بات کہی. تو قرآن مجید کی گویائی کو جب ہم سمجھیں گے، کیونکہ کسی عالم نے، کسی ذاکر نے ایک بہت خوبصورت بات کہی ایک مرتبہ کہ جب ہم نماز ادا کرنے کے لیے کھڑے ہوتے ہیں تو وہ ہماری گفتگو ہے اللہ تعالیٰ کے ساتھ، وہ ہماری اپروچ ہے اللہ تعالیٰ کی طرف. meaning that when we stand up for prayers, when we start our prayers, when we stand for qiyam, it is our presence to the Almighty, it is our attendance in the presence of the Almighty, it is our approach, and that we prepare ourselves and we stand to speak out to Almighty, to praise the Almighty, to appreciate, and to offer hamd sana, to offer prayers to the Almighty, and to accept our humility and our incapability in front of the Almighty. But when we open up the Quran Majid, when we start reading the Quran Majid, it's actually the Almighty talking to us. कुरान मजीद को जब हम खोलते हैं, जब उसकी तिलावत करते हैं, कुरान मजीद असल में अल्लाह ताला का खिताब है हम इंसानों से. जिस तरह से हम नमाज में अल्लाह ताला से मुखातिब होते हैं, उसी तरह से कुरान मजीद में अल्लाह ताला वो ज़ात परवरदिगार आलम, वो किबरिया हमसे मुखातिब है. तो जब तक हम उसको समझेंगे नहीं, उसके मानी और अल्फाज के ऊपर गौर व फिक्र नहीं करेंगे, उसके गहरे मतालिब को समझने की कोशिश नहीं करेंगे, तब तक हम समझ ही नहीं पाएंगे कि अल्लाह ताला हमसे कहना क्या चाह रहा है और हमसे क्या चाह रहा है. इसलिए कि अल्लाह ताला ने कोई भी चीज़ दुनिया में अबस पैदा नहीं की, कोई भी चीज़ बेमकसद पैदा नहीं की. वो खालिक कायनात है. एक मिसाल के तौर पे ये चश्मा है, ये ऐनक है, इसका खालिक, इसका ईजाद करने वाला, उसके जहन में एक सोच थी, एक मकसद था कि लोगों की कमज़ोर बीनाई में मदद देने के लिए, उसको हेल्प करने के लिए एक ऐसी चीज़ बनाई जाए, एक अदसा बनाया जाए, एक लेंस बनाया जाए और उसको इस तरह के एक फ्रेम में लगाया जाए कि इसको आसानी से इस्तेमाल कर ले पढ़ने वाला और अपनी कमज़ोरी को दूर कर सके और उससे जो लिमिटेशंस हायल हैं उस कमज़ोरी की वजह से उन लिमिटेशंस को दूर कर सके. तो खालिक कायनात, उसने अपनी खलकत की इंतहा कर दी, बल्कि लामहदूद है वो ज़ात. एंड द वर्ड इन्फिनिट इज़ totally attributed to the Almighty, because He Himself is infinite and everything that He has created is infinite. Like time is infinite, space is infinite. At least we cannot fathom the limits of the space, we cannot fathom the distances through which the space is stretched out, how long the time runs, the speed of light. We can only assess and estimate and measure to a certain degree, but nothing is still absolute. And previously we've been talking about the various creatures with respect to their uses, with respect to their purpose in the span of life, like ants, like tiny insects, like arthropods, like the fruits, vegetables and everything, and the beauty that they carry. And we are trying to ponder and reflect and contemplate on the purpose of their creation, the purpose of their colors, purpose of their designs, purpose of their patterns, purpose of the sounds, of odors, of the movement, of the types of nests they are building. So obviously we human beings have also been created with a huge purpose. And since we are the ashraful makhluqat, like we are the superior most beings, the human beings, so the superior most being has been created with a huge purpose. And if we fail to understand that purpose in our lives and just while away our lives in insignificant activities or pleasures and other indulgences, then we are actually abusing that purpose, that productivity or the creativity that is lying within ourselves. So let's continue our discussion of today. Today we will continue with some more arthropods, and we'll discuss the honeybee. Previous program was about an insect called cicadas, and there was a very brief talk about ants, but the main program, it comprised of the discussion on cicadas, another amazing arthropods, another amazing insect which has taught human beings a lot of things. And due to some technical difficulties, we could not transmit it to YouTube, and we'll try to bring it back to the viewers so you can also get informed about that other insect and that other discussion we had previously. So today's discussion is about the honeybee. The ayat which are the ayat of Quran which I recited in the beginning of the show is ayat number 68 of verse number 16, Surah Nahl. Surah Nahl, the bee, is the 16th surah of Quran Majid, and ayat number 68 is it says, for your convenience I'll read it in both Urdu and English. खुदावंद आलम इरशाद फरमाता है कि और तुम्हारे परवरदिगार ने शहद की मक्खी को इशारा दिया या शहद की मक्खी को वही की, इसलिए कि आयत के अल्फाज हैं औहा के व औहा रब्बुका इलन नहल के परवरदिगार आलम ने शहद की मक्खी को वही की, उसको इशारा दिया कि पहाड़ों और इसके बाद मुख्तलिफ दरख्तों और घरों की बुलंदियों में अपने घर बनाए, फलों से ग़िज़ा हासिल करे और नरमी के साथ खुदाई रास्ते पर चले, जिसके बाद इसके शिकम से मुख्तलिफ किस्म के मशरूब बरामद होंगे जिसमें पूरे आलम इंसानियत के लिए शिफा का सामान है और इसमें भी फ़िक्र करने वाली कौम के लिए एक निशानी है. I'll recite the translation in English so that you can also understand it very well. That your Lord revealed to the bees, or your Lord inspired the bee, saying that take your habitations in the mountains and in the trees, and what they, or the humans, erect or build. That is, build your dwellings in the mountains and the trees, and also in the structures which the men erect, which they create. Then eat of all fruits and follow the routes that your Lord made easy for you. There comes forth from their bellies a drink of varying colors, in which there is a cure for men. There is indeed a sign in that for people who reflect. Before we move on to the scientific discussion and scientific aspect of the bees and their other amazing and strictly mathematical layout of their life cycle, the very highly mathematical genius on which on the principles of which they build their nests, such accurate efficiency with which they work, their speed, the temperature, the angles, and their foraging, their selection of nectars, and their creation of honeys, and they're dividing up the duties and the tasks, and performing the duties, and also taking care of the lousy ones, also taking care of the lazy ones, the ones who procrastinate and do not perform the duties to the optimum. Yes, bees are very, very disciplined. Two things before I move on, that according to the Arabic grammar, the translators and the mufassireens, they have indicated that the noun which Allah Ta'ala has used, the verbs and the nouns which Allah Ta'ala has used for describing the tasks of the bees, they belong to the feminine gender of the nouns and the verbs. That when Allah Ta'ala commands the bee that build dwellings in the mountain, they say that this word build is the feminine gender of the verb, as Arabic has the richest grammar and a very complicated grammar, which offers a very rich vocabulary and a very rich usage of complete understanding of the object and the subject and the predicate. So it says the verb build pertains to the bee, and the verb eat again pertains to the feminine bee, the female bee. And travel again pertains to the, or it addresses the female bee. So does all the tasks. So the modern science has now proved this thing, that all the tasks are actually performed by the female bees. That is, it says that the word eat is kulli for females and kul for females. So the Quran has used the word kulli for indicating the female gender. And then when Allah Ta'ala kulli samarat, that eat, suma kulli min kulli samarat, then the female bees should go out and look for the nectar, collect the nectar, eat, and when they come back, follow the path, uskuli. Again, the verb is uskuli for females, whether on the other hand for males it is usluk. So these are the differentiations that the Mufassirin have brought forth. Then the word their bellies, again it's the word is butuniha, which indicates the females, as opposed to the butunihim, which is for males. So butuniha here indicates the bees again. Okay, this was revealed in Quran some 1400 years ago, and for all those times, in fact before the revelation of Quran, the bees were under study by some Greek scientists, Greek scholars, and the knowledge what we have today about the bees, it covers the span of roughly 2000 years of research and studies, of which the very highly intensive research is it took place some in last 200 years, and this included this involved some very serious lab testings, some lab researches, the testing of the beehives, developing the beehives in the lab in the controlled environment, and observing and calculating and spending hours after hours of perspiration to find out the miracle that is created by the bee. All right. First of all, I would like to mention one thing, that bees are known to maintain temperatures. Everyone must have seen the beehive. So the particular thing, the main, like the first thing that comes to the mind when we even speak out, when we talk about the bee, is the typical shape, the hexagon. The typical hexagon, which is so perfectly angled that it creates a plane symmetry, because like if you remember the first program, the plane symmetry is that any given shape is copied over and over and over on a plane, and it creates a plane symmetry. So the purpose of plane symmetry is also to take the least possible space, take a least possible area, cover a least possible area without wasting any space, without using any space, and also to avoid random thickness and thinness anywhere. So to maintain an accurate thickness and accurate shape, the bees create these amazingly accurate hexagons into a plane symmetry, and eventually they create a 3D shape which is irregular, but like the beehive or the honeycomb is a world in itself. So we'll move on and we'll share some videos with you, some video clips with you, which will help you understand what we are here to discuss. And along with, I'll keep on adding up to the to some more information with you. So let's move on to the first clip, and let's take a closer look to at the bees.
Everyone knows some things about the honeybee. Her industrious buzzing from flower to flower seeking nectar, the delicious product she makes from that nectar, and the potency of her last resort defense. Such things as are commonly known about the bee do not suggest a beehive as a good place for a lesson in mathematics. But here, as in all of nature, understanding what is happening involves mathematics. For mathematics is the language of science. This piece of honeycomb, a little over an ounce, represents over 20,000 bee miles for collection of nectar, the raw material, plus over 110,000 bee hours spent transforming the nectar into wax, to which must be added more than 18,000 bee hours for fashioning the wax into comb, according to a precise pattern. Since honeycomb is so expensive to construct, it's obvious that economy in the use of wax is very important to the welfare of the hive. Is there a geometric shape which is more economical to build than any other? We have made models in which each has the same volume and the same height. Which of these requires the least amount of material to build? That is, which has the smallest lateral surface area? Since the height is the same, the one with the shortest perimeter is the best. More sides mean less perimeter. Thinking of the cylinder as having an infinite number of sides shows that it uses the least material. But cylinders are only economical if they stand alone. Placed together, they leave large gaps between them. Since no walls can be shared, they are wasteful of both space and material. Wherever walls lie side by side, they can be shared by two cells. That is, one wall can do the work of two. Thus, octagons, in which 4 of 8 sides can be shared, save 25% on material. Triangles, by sharing all their sides, and squares, save 50% on material. Therefore, when we consider the savings possible through the sharing of sides, the material needed to construct cylinders does not change. But the other figures require less material, for they share sides. Of all the figures, the hexagon uses the least material. This is the shape the bees use. This discovery of the economy of honeycomb was made over 16 centuries ago by an Alexandrian geometer, Pappus. What he and others have learned about honeycomb has been applied to build the largest grain elevator in the world. The hexagon provided the most economical, the strongest design. Such study of living things is today called bionics. Much effort is being expended to learn from a wide variety of creatures, and results are coming in. Study of the eye of a beetle has resulted in a device installed on planes which measures their ground speed more accurately than had been possible before. Study of the common housefly has given us a new, extremely rugged gyroscope. Indeed, there seems to be no area in which men cannot learn from the abilities and organs which God has given to his creatures. And in practically every instance, mathematical calculations are involved in understanding the animals and in applying what we learn. There is much more we can learn from honeycomb. A structural engineer can show us other advantages of the hexagon among all the patterns the bees might have used. When certain transparent plastics are placed in a polariscope and a stress applied, colored patterns appear. The series of rainbow changes are most numerous where the stress is most concentrated, as at the corner of the notch, the weakest point on the bar. The stress patterns from various geometric shapes are most revealing. What if bees had built square cells? One of the drawbacks of square cells is that a load along a partition is not readily transferred to adjacent partitions. In triangular cells, a load at any point is distributed to several members. However, there is a major drawback. The horizontal members are loaded in compression. This is the wrong way to load a thin plate, which readily buckles. In hexagonal cells, however, the load is distributed as a tension. This makes maximum use of the strength of the thin wax walls. The pattern is so strong that less material is needed in the walls to support the load. Bees take advantage of this and make the walls of the cells less than 3/1000ths of an inch thick, thinner than a sheet of paper. It's amazing, isn't it? Bees build honeycomb just as if they were graduates from the best schools of engineering, using the shape which is not only the most economical, but also the strongest. The understanding of the polariscope pattern by an engineer requires a great deal of mathematics. In fact, to go into a thorough study of the structure of honeycomb involves mathematics so complex as to require a computer. Let's look further at the way in which mathematics, some of it quite advanced, has enabled the scientists to understand the structure of the honeycomb. Some 2.5 centuries ago, a French astronomer, Maraldi, became fascinated with bees. One thing he noted about the double rank of cells in honeycomb is that their bottoms are not flat, but convex, formed of 3 rhombi. Obviously, the obtuse angles where bottom meets wall make it easier for the bees to construct the cells and to keep them clean. But Maraldi noted that there was a remarkable constancy to the angles of the rhombi. They measured about 70 degrees. He suggested that the bees had used this angle for the sake of simplicity. For if the acute angles of the rhombi are 70 degrees 32 minutes, the angles of the side trapezoids are identical. Réaumur, a noted French scientist, suspected that there was a further reason for the special shape. He wrote to a number of mathematicians asking what angle would give the most economical trihedral base on a hexagonal prism. Only one, Koenig, came up with an answer. To get his answer, he first proved that the volume of all hexagonal prisms with trihedral bases is the same, provided that the height h and the side a remain constant. This is easy to see. If a piece is cut off one place and put back on at another, the volume does not change. But as this distance changes, the shape of the prism and the area of its surface change. If this distance is called x, this is the formula for the surface area. It consists of the areas of the 6 rectangular sides, less the triangular pieces, plus the areas of the 3 rhombic ends, which can be calculated by means of the Pythagorean theorem. Substituting in this formula, calculating values for x equals 0, x equals 1/10, and so on, plotting these values, x equals 4/10, 6/10, and so on, and then connecting these points gives us a graph which shows that the area is at a minimum when x lies between 3/10 and 4/10. In other words, the prism with the flat base and the prism with the very pointed base have more surface area and would require more material to build than the intermediate one. Unfortunately, no amount of graphing or even brute force calculation will yield a mathematically precise answer. But there is an elegant shortcut to an exact answer. Some 300 years ago, Newton invented the calculus. About 75 years later, when few men understood the method, Koenig manipulated the formula for the area according to the precise rules of the calculus. The mathematician calls it differentiating with respect to x and equating to 0 to minimize. This process yields the precise point where the surface is at a minimum. With complete generality, this occurs when x equals a, the length of a side, times the square root of 2 divided by 4. The cell then has the shape the bee uses with the angles of the rhombi that Maraldi gave. Someone may wonder whether this is so economical. Isn't it necessary to waste wax to build 2 pointed ends? Bees have the answer to this. They build the cells so that the bottoms are offset. Each cell fits into the pocket formed by 3 cells on the opposite side. Modern science, with its high-speed computers and intricate formulas for stress analysis, has not been able to improve on the honeycomb. It has merely confirmed it as the ideal structural shape. But man could not understand the perfection of this pattern which the Creator had given to the honeybee until after he understood the mathematics involved. For as Galileo noted, that vast book which stands forever open before our eyes, I mean the universe, cannot be read until we have learnt the language. It is written in mathematical language, without which it is humanly impossible to comprehend a single word. This insistence on the importance of mathematics made Galileo the father of modern science, for this discovery is the very cornerstone of science. Today, continued scientific progress depends on a more thorough, a broader application of mathematical concepts. Thus, we can discover more of the order the Creator has built into the universe. Only thus can we read further in the great book of nature which lies open before us.
So, amazingly intricate, complicated maths involved in seemingly insignificant beehive, which is not so insignificant indeed. I don't know about how many people, but have actually witnessed or seen a beehive up close. It is actually an amazing wonder. About the shape, one thing I'd like to share with a little regret, that although we very proudly say today that all this had already been mentioned 1400 years ago in the Quran Hakim, the book that was revealed on our Prophet, but did we ponder, did we reflect, did we contemplate, did we take a close look? No. All that we did was to just gather honey, squeeze out the beehive, gather the honey, and that's it. All this math has been uncovered, the mathematics of bees has been uncovered by the scientists and who studied science and the bees and the habitats outside the realm of Quran, outside the realm of any religious book for that matter. The reason why Allah Ta'ala mentioned it is, again, like for example, just now this documentary spoke or focused mainly upon the shape of the beehive, of the honeycomb, like the perfectly angled hexagon. There are two theories even today. However, after those hundreds of years of research, today's scientists who are still advancing their research now into that, how the bees are actually able to acquire this perfectly angled hexagon. Two theories. One theory, two different teams of scientists are working on pretty much the similar principle. One team is in the UK and in the Royal Society Institute, and there's another team which is studying more or less the same aspect in Beijing, China. They conclude that all that mathematical genius that the bees have been called to come up with such spectacular beehive and everything, so bees are too tiny to come up with all sorts of maths. So it's just our own amazement that's making us exciting and attributing so much of the mathematical genius to the bees. So that is not the case. They say they studied the bees and their construction of the beehive in a controlled environment, and they found out that when they are building the beehive and when the stage comes to build the cells, the honeycombs, the cells, the bees settle themselves and they generate heat. They focus on their body temperature and they raise their body temperature to the extent that initially the wax that they have created to build the beehives, that initial cells, they start as circles, cylinders, as circles. No hexagon, no angle has come up yet. The bees settle themselves in those circles, in those cylinders, and they focus on raising their body temperatures so that the wax in the circle, in the cylinder, it starts melting, and it melts to the point that it takes up a hexagonal shape. So they attribute no genius, no mathematical intelligence to the bees, that it's just random, that it just happens, the bees just do it. All right. So, okay, I say, or like the other category of the scientists who still attribute a lot of mathematical genius and a lot of scientific knowledge in the sesame-sized brain of the bee. Yes, the brain of the bee is the size of a sesame seed, tiny sesame seed, because the bee is also not too much big in itself. They say that somehow the bees know how to raise the temperature to an extent to melt the wax. The scientists in Beijing, they have come up with two further theories where it concerns the melting, increasing the body temperatures and melting the wax in the circle, in the cylinder, to the point that it creates a hexagonal shape. They say that two things happen. That they calculated that the amount of time each, they created two scenarios, they concluded two scenarios, that in one scenario the hexagons within the cells are created in 6 seconds, and that they say that that can happen when the bees morph themselves into raising the body temperature to such an extreme level that the circle cylinder, it melts into a hexagonal shape, and it all happens in 6 seconds flat. Another theory by the same team, it says that if they are warmed entirely and within 36 seconds, if only partially warmed, in their future work, all right, they are concentrating on these two aspects. They say that either two scenarios, either the bees just raise the temperature of the overall body to an extent that a hexagon is created. That will take 6 seconds, a faster time. Another theory says that somehow the bees are able to raise the temperature of the bodies at certain points, like we are talking about the abdomen of the bee, the part of the bee, like bee being an arthropod, it is divided into 3 parts, like a basic, like any other arthropod: head, thorax, and the abdomen. So this all is happening, the temperature rising and all is happening in the abdominal part of the bee. So, and the abdomen is focusing on raising the temperature, and it is consuming the cylinder, the wax cylinder. So they say that somehow the bees, they raise the temperature at 6 points, that only those 6 points touch the cylinder, the wax cylinder, at certain points, that it melts them in not 6 seconds but 36 seconds, that it develops into a hexagon. Again, the question arises that how come so accurate, that you've just seen the whole calculation in the video, and like all those studies are involved, which maintain that the thickness between the walls, of the two respective cylinders is no more than 0.1 millimeter thick. The remarkably high precision engineering, like the young worker bees excrete slivers. Okay, there's another theory. Another theory holds, another team of scientists, they refute that they don't just first create the cylinders like that. Instead, the young worker bees, they produce slivers of hot wax, just like a grain of rice, just like thin long slivers of hot wax, and they place them in the cylinder. they place them in such a way that it creates a hexagonal shape. And then they work, like you watched in the video, that they work on maintaining and building the hexagonal walls and maintaining an exactly accurate thickness of 0.1 millimeters. And this 0.1 millimeter thickness, like that, other workers take the freshly produced slivers and carefully position them to form vertical six-sided cylindrical chambers or cells. Each wax partition is less than 0.1 millimeter thick, accurate to a tolerance of 0.002 millimeters. Each of the 6 walls is exactly the same width, and the walls meet at an angle of precisely 120 degrees, producing one of the perfect figures of geometry, a regular hexagon. And we have already discussed that why don't bees create triangles or other tessellations. By the way, for the younger children, the younger kids, that these shapes, they fall into the category of the shapes and patterns that are called tessellations. Tessellations are the patterns or the shapes which take the minimum space without leaving any gaps, which create shapes which join together to make larger regular and irregular shapes without leaving any gaps. Like when you put triangles together and create a form, create a design, create a pattern by putting different triangles one on top of each other alongside, then they also do not leave any gaps. So they are also the tessellation patterns. Squares also do not leave any gaps. Likewise, hexagons, they do not leave any gaps. So they are called tessellations. All right. This is again an invitation for you to further probe and think and argue or reflect and to investigate that whether it is really the body temperature of the bees that creates it, or is it just by chance, random, or is it a masterpiece of precise engineering. Another aspect about the temperature, like since we are talking about the temperatures of the bees, that they have this ability of raising and lowering the temperatures of their bodies and maintaining it to a certain level. Two more very interesting things happen in a beehive with respect to temperature. That is that if you observe a beehive, if you happen to extract honey from a beehive, you will notice that no matter whatever the season it is, whether it's very cold, freezing winter season, or it's blistering hot summer season, the honey in winter season does not freeze over. It doesn't thicken to freezing point because of the outside temperature, nor it starts to become so thin that it starts flowing out or dripping from the beehive in hot, blistering, scorching heat. How is that possible? Well, again, the wonder workers, the miracle workers, the bees, that they maintain the temperatures within the beehive to approximately 20 degrees Celsius, that it does not go higher or lower than 20 degrees Celsius, and it is maintained at that temperature no matter whatever the season or the season it is, or whatever the outside temperature it is. So that is why the temperature of the honey in the honeycombs stays constant at 20 degrees Celsius. Another very interesting fact about the temperature of the honeys. Okay, the honeybees, all right, yes, everybody knows that they are stingers, the little horrible stingers, but they only sting when they feel threatened, when they feel that there's a predator around, or when they feel that their hives or their honeycomb, their hive or themselves, they are threatened. That is the only time that they attack and sting. A lot of animals, a large number of animals, birds, even insects, are stung and are killed or injured or poisoned by the stinger of the bees. However, there is one arthropod, one insect like the drone. it has a very thick shelled body, that it's not killed or destroyed or injured or wounded by the sting. And it's fairly large than a bee, and these energetic insects, they surround the drone from all sides and they close in on it. They surround the drone from all sides and they close in and they cover it from all sides, and then they don't let it go and they start raising the temperature of their bodies. The bees close in on the hornet. Sorry, they close in on the hornet, don't let it go, surrounded by all sides. Just they create a ball, a kind of a big ball, not just a few bees covering it, but like a good large number of bees, that it turns into a ball. After covering it from all sides, they raise the temperature of their own body to an extent that it roasts the hornet. And this is how they kill it. So the temperature, or like killing by heat, I mean, I found it very amazing, very interesting. So before we go on further, one more thing that about the male and the female bees that we spoke about earlier, that the Almighty also used the feminine gender, the female gender, while speaking about the bees in the Quran. The male bees, their body is structured in a way that they are not capable of going out for foraging, going out to suck and collect the nectar, to make honey, or to do any of the other chores and the jobs. So the researchers have found out that the only job of the male bees is to inseminate and fertilize the queen. That is the only job they have. All the other bees, besides the queen bees, the worker bees, the soldier bees, the other bees, the caretaker bees, they're all females. However, though they are females, but they are sterile, because they don't have any ovaries to produce any eggs. So they are pretty much sterile. And they are responsible for cleaning the hive, maintaining the hive, taking care of the eggs and the larvae, making honey, going out to collect the honey, going out to collect the nectar, bring it back, and to do all those jobs. These worker bees, dividing their jobs on, like having different jobs of their own, their lifespan is no more than 6 weeks. However, the queen bee, it has a life of, it lives up to 5 years. The queen bee lives up to 5 years, whether the other bees, they only live up to 6 weeks or so. All right, now again, there are some, their wings, they flap their wings about like 200 times per minute. That's what creates that buzzing sound. And although I did not find it in any other the documentaries and the other things I looked up, but I read it somewhere with respect to the description in the Quran that about one of the soldier bees, that there is one bee which is apparently the chief of the bees. And how do the bees know which flowers to go, which are the good flowers, which are the dangerous, harmful, poisonous flowers? So this bee goes and checks out all the flowers, and then it comes back and then it instructs the bees, the rest of the bees, and gives them a route plan. And it gives them the route plan by flying in front of the hive in figure 8, like telling them, like, right, left, like figure 8, either this way or that way, or depending on the location. So this is how it indicates the route of their foraging, where to go and how to find the way back. After that, it just sits at the hives, and when all the bees come back, bringing the nectar back to the hives, this bee somehow has another job of checking and examining the nectar brought by the bees. It filters, it screens them, it examines the quality of the nectar, the type which was prescribed to them, which was told to them, which was instructed to them. Those who have fulfilled all the instructions, they are allowed to move on to go on in the hive. Those which apparently did not follow the instructions to the point, down to the dot, or did not bring the exact type of nectar which was supposed to be brought back, they are killed. This chief bee, it kills them by cutting them into two. This bee is called in one of the traditions of Rasulullah as the Yasub. This bee is called Yasub, and Yasub is also one of the titles of Mawla Kainat Amir al-Mu'mineen, Imam Ali ibn Abi Talib, that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam called him the Yasubuddin, that being the Imam of the mankind, having given the instructions, having given the code to follow, the manual to follow, whoever follows is salvaged, whoever isn't will be punished. And about this strike of Mawla, it is well known that whenever he was in battle, he either attacked or killed his opponent, the enemy, either vertically into two exact halves, either vertically or horizontally. But anytime anybody noticed or checked, they used to be exact equal two halves, just like this Yasub, the bee, which cuts down the bees who do not follow the instructions to the dot. All right, this was again from somewhere from our religious explanations. I will share a few more facts about the bees with you, and before we leave, and these are things that some really interesting facts that I should like to share with you. Let's check them out. Have been around for about over 1 million years, so they have been around for quite a while. So they have evolved, but the jobs has pretty much stays the same. It is the only insect that produces food eaten by man. Yes, like the Quran says that it produces a syrup, a drink which has cure for the mankind. They have 170 odorant receptors. They can smell about 170 different types of odors and scents. That's how they collect the nectar. The honeybee's wings strike incredibly fast, about 200 beats per second. I'm sorry, I said per minute earlier. It's per second. Then a honeybee can fly for up to 6 miles, and as fast as 15 miles per hour. Now that's pretty fast for the little insect. The average worker bee produces about 1/12 teaspoon of honey in her lifetime. Imagine how hard they work to produce just a little drop. A honeybee visits 50 to 100 flowers during a collection trip. Talk about hard work. A colony of bees consists of 20,000 to 60,000 honeybees and one queen, which is the only bee that lays eggs in thousands. The bee's brain is oval in shape and only about the size of a sesame seed. Yes, that tiny. The queen bee can live up to 5 years and is the only bee that lays up to 2,500 eggs per day. That's how we always have because the other bees, they die in 6 weeks of time. So naturally, the queen bee needs more worker bees for itself. So there are a few more things before we leave. All right, the bee stings, they contain melatonin. It has the ability to kill. I'm sorry, I'll just stop here. It has the ability to kill HIV virus by tearing the protective envelope of the virus, all while keeping normal cells unharmed. Now, that's called protection. This is what the soldier bees do. Now, over 45 known fruits and vegetables rely on pollination from bees. They do not only go out and collect nectars to bring it back to make honey, but they are also very, very active pollinators, which are responsible for producing more vegetables and fruits and flowers and spreading them all across and making sure that they do not die out completely. And then there's a nice array of colorful fruits and vegetables and flowers all around us. Imagine a world without apples, garlics, cherries, onions, and the rest of the other staple foods in our diets. They are all helped by the bees through pollination. It only takes 1 ounce of honey to fuel a bee's trip around the earth. Wow, meaning they work on low fuel, very highly efficient little anthropods. And do male honeybees have no stingers and do no work at all? All they do is mate. Before winter or when food becomes scarce, female honeybees usually force surviving males out of the nest. Okay, like laying off. So layoffs happen in the bee world as well, not just in our world. A hive's queen bee can live up to 5 years, while most other female bees live only around 6 weeks. So that is the reason for producing so many eggs every day. It beats them 200 times per second. Queen bees lay up to 2,500 eggs per day. A honeybee visits 50 to 100 flowers during a pollination trip. Okay, this is something we read earlier. The average hive has 40,000 bees in it with only one queen. Honeybees communicate with each other by dancing. Like I just said, that this yasub, it moves in a figure 8 position and communicates with the bees and tells them where to go. One interesting thing, it stuck somehow. While growing up, I grew up in a house which has like lots of trees all around our house, like fruit trees, mangoes and other fruit trees, and we usually had a beehives in one of the trees, big and large, and we've seen like them pretty up close. So as it says in the ayat of Quran, that go out and make your hives in the trees, in mountains and wherever, and whatever they built, whatever the human beings built. So yes, I have seen it, that although there were quite a few trees around, but this time, one day when we came down in the morning to, like in Pakistan, you have like your own pump for pumping up water and storing it in your own water tank in your own house. So you have to turn it on every morning for a while to pump up the water. So when we came down, it was a cement concrete box, and there was a big beehive. It was pretty huge that we could not reach the buttons, and naturally it had to be removed, taken away. So when it was taken away, it was a fairly large and a very busy beehive. When we removed it, and the person who removed it, it just like squeezed out the honey in a jar and threw it at a distance, just flung it at a distance so that the bees would disperse. To our surprise, we kids were standing by nearby watching the whole thing in excitement, and to our surprise, the bees did not follow the empty beehive, the beehive that was like when he wrung out all the honey and threw it away. Not a single bee followed the beehive. Instead, that place, that point where the beehive was hanging, dangling down, all the bees, they went up to that exact same spot and created that exact same shape of the beehive. We were totally astonished that the shape was exactly the same without a beehive. It was just the bees, a few bees holding on to that edge, and the rest of the bees one on top of the other, creating that exact same shape. The person who had done that, he had some experience with the bees previously because he knew what to do, and he told us that they are going to stay there for 3 days like that. Said, like, 3 days, like, why? There, the beehive is there, the destroyed beehive is there, like there's nothing there. He say, in his own hillbilly version, in his own village countryside version, he said that they will mourn the loss of their eggs and larvae for 3 days. And we kids checked it for the next 3 days, and true to his word, that shape, all those bees in that shape remained there for 3 days. After that, they just dispersed and flew away. So, do they have emotions and sentiments? Probably, because it was their eggs and larvae and their hard work and labor, and they mourn for 3 days. So yes, mourning is natural. There is nothing artificial, and that there is nothing abnormal about mourning. So with this note, there were 2 more slides I wanted to share with you, just 2 more pictures very quickly, which I will show you to tell you the description, because these are very recently discovered by the scientists. Like, going back to the translation of the ayat, that when God Almighty, when Allah Almighty inspired the bee to go and make the nest, eat all fruits and follow the rules that your Lord made easy for you, that comes forth, and yes, take your habitations in the mountains and in the trees. So this is recently discovered by the scientists, that the bees, actually, there were some species of bees in Mexico or in some parts of South America. They were found that they had bored holes in the trunks and they had nested in the tree trunks. So this tells about the trees that go and make your trees, because yes, the beehives are also usually made on the trees. That is also another tafsir or another explanation of the beehive. Bees should taking up their abode in the trees. This is also one form that they take it. And another one is, yes, this is a rock. It's a cliffside, actually. No, so I'm sorry, not a cliffside. It's a huge boulder which has been bored, and like the bees apparently gnawed their way into this rock, and they nested. All these holes have been gnawed into by the bees. So this explains that take your habitations in the mountains and in the trees. So these 2 different species have been recently discovered by the scientists in some parts of South America, and they add up to the explanation of what is meant, because we are still uncovering the mysteries of the word of the Almighty, the mysteries of Quran, and we are still uncovering and trying to understand what the Almighty Rabbul Alameen is trying to tell us. No wonder He's asking us again and again, inviting our attention to ponder, reflect, contemplate, think. So with this note, let's take a leave for today. Take care of yourselves. Try to indulge not in the devices, not in the games, but let's indulge and delve into the world of science that has been discussed and spread out all across the Quran Majid, which is also called Quran Hakim, that is the book of wisdom, the Quran containing hikmat, or the wisdom. So pray for us, pray for all of us, pray for your neighbors, your relatives, your friends and family. Pray for the Vilayat team here in Houston and in LA. And with this, I take a leave. Wa akhiru da'wana an alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen.